Hey everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. In today's video we have Anoushka, and she wanted to share some of the strange experiences she has had when she was little in Tennessee. I think it's a good thing to be open-minded when you are talking about a topic that is a never-ending rabbit hole. Of course, I enjoy detailed eye-sighting encounters from hunters, outdoorsmen, and regular people who live out in the woods, but it's also good to listen to people with paranormal experiences so we can explore every possibility. If you have had an eye-sighting encounter with a Bigfoot creature, please contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. And if you enjoy listening to Sasquatch Theory, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and we are on our way to hitting 100,000 viewers here in the near future. Anyways, I appreciate all the viewers and everyone's support, and let's just dive straight into this next interview here on Sasquatch Theory. All right, Anoushka, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today?
Thank you, great.
Good to hear. If you would, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your experiences from the very beginning, please.
Okay. I was born in Tennessee in 1961. My family and I used to travel to rural Tennessee, which is in northern western Tennessee. Extremely isolated area. My mother's father, my papa, had a farmhouse back there. He raised all kinds of animals. And I don't remember any of us being allowed to play in the woods. We always had to have another person with us, like one of the older boys who could go with a gun. Well, this particular day, my sister and I followed my older uncle, my older brother, my sister, and I was at the back. And we were just going to go through. They had probably shotguns with them. And we were just walking in the woods on a trail at the side of the house. We were following the boys. And so I was about 5 or 6 years old at this time. And I was a very, very shy girl. I didn't like to eat in front of people. I didn't, was very, very quiet. And I remember that we were breaking off corn from corn cobs and to find our way back on the trail. Well, I remember seeing everybody walking in front of me, breaking off the corn. And the next thing, I don't know what happened. The next thing I remember, the next consciousness that I had, I was standing in the woods in a clearing, and my grandpa's dogs, there must have been 4 or 5 dogs around me, were by my side. And I looked up and I thought what I saw was a bear standing up. And I remember thinking, well, that's strange because I don't think bears stand up like that. And I knew that much, but I had never heard anything about a Bigfoot or Sasquatch or, had no knowledge of anything like that. I had, that year, all we saw was just what was on TV, which wasn't much. And I began to hear voices in my head, and it said, follow the dogs back home. And I followed the dogs, took me back to the house. And when I got back to the house, apparently I'd been missing for like 6 to 8 hours. And there were about 20 people that had been out looking for me. I didn't hear anybody calling me. I didn't hear anything else. And the only thing that I kept saying to my mother, I said, the bear was standing up. The bear was standing up. And nobody believed me. And I was never allowed to go in the woods after that. So that happened.
Can you describe the features on this bear? What do you remember it looking like? What color was it?
Like a brindle dog, like a multicolored reddish, brownish, and it wasn't very tall. But now I think it was probably a very, very young Bigfoot, and just kind of a beigey face. No hair around the face, but everywhere else.
Yeah, that is interesting. And you think these creatures caused you to have missing time, or perhaps you walked into a portal, something like that?
I have no idea. it was just a very, and they're not the kind of people around there who will talk about, they will not talk about anything. They won't talk about any deaths that ever happened in the houses or anything. Um, so they're very closed-minded about that. But I began to think about that whole scenario about, this farmhouse was very, very old. I mean, they burned coal, totally self-sufficient in the middle of nowhere. And I'm wondering if maybe somebody didn't know that they were out there, because I distinctly I remember it was a big deal when the boys would go in the woods, and like one of the adults would always say, well, if you're going, make sure you're back, in a certain amount of time. Otherwise, they would go out and start blaring the horn for them to come back. And I don't know. I really don't know what was going on. It's hard to say, but I don't know what happened, obviously, but something happened. Why can't I remember? How did I disappear and everybody else come back and return and I wasn't with them? Where did I go? I don't know what happened. But but then later on in my life, I began every few years to have very other strange things happen. I don't know. It's just a story about something that happened to a child, and I have no answers. It's never bothered me. I've never been afraid, or I wasn't afraid then, and um I don't know.
Okay. So what
I
else
wonder if there's
happened
any.
after this experience that you had when you were 5 or 6 years old?
Oh, nothing at that age. The next thing that happened was when I was around 13 years old. I don't know if it has anything to do with Sasquatch or what, but it's probably more of a UFO type of something. Something happened where I feel like there was more time missing.
Mhm.
I can tell you about it really quickly if you want to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, okay, so that happened when I was about 5 or 6. Moving on, when I was about 13, I was living in Florida, and one of the neighbor girls' family were going up to, I think, the Swanee River. I think it was someplace North Florida, Georgia, or somewhere, and it was to an isolated cabin. Well, it was just her parents and us two girls, and we went out in the woods one morning, and we were walking along a creek, and then all of a sudden, it felt like I was waking up, and like almost kind of like you were waking up from anesthesia. And I noticed that the sun was going down, and it's like I was there, and all this time went by, and somehow I was bitten from the feet up to my knees by hundreds of ants, fire ants. I had hundreds of blisters all over my legs. And my mother said, how could you not feel them biting you? How did you? I said, I don't know. I don't remember what happened. I was by the creek, and it was morning. And the next thing you know, it was like somebody set me down in a bed of ants, and I had to keep going to the doctor and everything. It was horrible. And she and I remembered nothing about that day. We just knew that something had happened, and the whole day had gone by. So then moving on to when I was 16, I was still living in Florida, and I was living at home, and I felt like I went into a induced out of body experience. And it's like my hearing amplified. And in my head, I was being shown that a craft was hovering in the woods. And I saw this something come down on a blue beam from this UFO, and I could hear it running through the woods. All of a sudden, and this was at 12 o'clock, all of a sudden, I don't even remember moving my body, but I'm sitting in front of the window on the floor in my bedroom. And I knew this thing was in front of me. And I would have put my head up to look at it. And it did something to my solar plexus, and it caused this energy to move up my solar plexus, up my throat, and force my head up to look at it. And it was your typical, it was wearing a black suit. It had a breastplate on with lights. and he had those big black wraparound eyes. He was wearing like a helmet, darker skin, just a holes for a nose, a slit for a mouth, and he started showing me all these future cataclysmic happenings for the earth in the future. And it was, I don't know why, I'm just telling you what he told me. He said, don't, this is crazy. He said, I'm going to give you 4 numbers. And he gave me 4 numbers. He said, during the time of destruction, he said, don't worry, because during this time, there will be enough off-planet stations that the ones who were supposed to get off will get off. And there will be these scuttle shouts that will be taking people off to get where they need to go. And basically what he was describing to me is that there would be hell on earth. And he said, do not be afraid, and do not be afraid of me. And I screamed. He just like disappeared from my window in front of me. I screamed. I moved out the next day, would never live there again. I slept with the lights on for 2 years. And the only other thing that happened besides that is I'm not too afraid of anything. I live on 40 acres by myself, pretty isolated, and nothing. I mean, I just don't get scared, but I do believe that there are all these things going on, and I do believe that a lot of people have strange things happen to them that they never have the opportunity. They never get the opportunity to really say, because they don't want to be ridiculed. Nobody believes anything that's happened to me, and I don't try to convince anybody, and I don't really care. But I guess, the more we know and the more we can find out. And I guess if these things happened all the time, then sure, it'd be a problem, but I can't do anything about a situation I know nothing about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've spent your life wondering about these experiences that you've had and wondering about the
Oh,
connection.
I believe that I'm marked. I believe they probably implanted me a long time ago, and I believe a lot of people are. Um, I don't know.
Why do
I
you
don't know
think
what
certain
to.
individuals are marked?
And some aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your theory on
Well,
that?
just who probably whomever they can grab first. I don't know. Human nature is a very extraordinary thing, and the way what gets me is the way different people perceive, depending on kind of like what they believe, what their beliefs are, and how spiritual they are on the behaviors of Bigfoot. Everybody perceives, well, I think he said that tree knock meant, get out of here. And, or somebody else may think, oh, they're letting us know they're here, I don't know if it's just, you see somebody out by themselves. Uh, who knows what's connected. I just always remember that Bible passage where, God clearly tells us that the ruler of this planet right now is Satan. So we're bound to see all kinds of weird things, coming about and happening. But I think it's just fascinating. I used to do, your owl call is very good, by the way. I used to do owl calls out here, and I stopped doing them when I was, when I heard on your program that they would mimic calls. And because I always get answers back, although I have never, I think that I would feel if something was around here, but I'm not scared, and
Mhm.
I'm really not scared of things that go bump in the night.
Yeah.
Um,
Where are you living at right now? What state?
I live in north central Missouri.
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
live about 2 hours north of Columbia
Okay.
in a
So,
little farming community. There's less than 200 people here.
Yeah, I've been up that way in Macon County and or
Yeah,
around there.
I live in Macon County.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of land out there, surprisingly. There's a lot of farm land, but there's still a lot of
Oh,
woods and not a whole lot of people.
well, I watch the cows because I have had cows, and there's cows all around me, and I watch how they act. If the cows get funny, then I start looking, okay, what's here.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
I was renting 10 acres for my horses and my rabbits and my chickens in South Texas. And I had kind of thought the horses were acting strange, and I didn't really. There were houses like on either side, so I didn't really. And it was by a highway, and I really didn't think that there'd be too much of anything coming up. Maybe some wild dogs or something. And I heard the other day, yesterday or day before, on one of your shows about rabbits' heads missing, and that's always perplexed me because I I thought, what kind of animal does that? First of all, there's a motive for food or territory or maybe something else. I don't know. I can't read the minds of animals. I do hunt, but in a sense, you read other things. But that's exactly what happened. I went there that morning and the heads were missing from all my rabbits. And then I walked in the back of the property and obviously something was smelling, and that Shetland pony that was adjacent to my property was dead. And the guy said that just something got it. And on my property, maybe about 20 feet from where the pony was dead, there was a big pile of greenish brown poop, huge. And I knew right away. I said, that's Bigfoot poop. This is a Bigfoot. I bet a Bigfoot came up. I mean, it's unmistakable,
Yeah. How
you
many
know?
rabbits' heads were missing?
Uh, my chickens were all dead. Um, just one at that. I'm trying to think because I had another place, one at that time. No, on that particular day there was one.
Okay. Did they
I
come
just
back and
thought,
get more later on?
no, I left. I took my horses and I left. I didn't want to be there anymore because it just felt there was just after that little pony, got killed. I mean, I thought, yeah, cats or whatever, because I've seen cats. I've been chased by a wolf down by the river, and I've seen big cats out there in the woods while riding my horse. And my horse will see something like that always before I do. And they turn around so quickly, you just about get jerked off, and you just you just see a flash of it. But you know what you see, and people say that no matter what it is, and other things would come up missing, like a goat, just stuff like that. I just thought it was dogs or something, but
Yeah, the
I
horses
don't
will let
know.
you know when something's wrong. They can pick up on things way before we can. And it's pretty interesting how their sense of knowing is much more heightened than a human being.
So I have a Victorian house in town that was built in 1900. I have not lived in that house for 3 years, and I live up on the farm. That I'm working on getting some people to come through that want to. And it's weird because the same people I bought it from called me and want it back. That house is so haunted that I can't even hardly let people come in it because I'm so embarrassed because I don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah. What did you experience in that house?
Well, I'll tell you one of the worst things that happened. I mean, this is just really weird stuff. So I have cats, and I'd come home. This happened a couple of times. Just it started the night I moved in. Um, well, a lot of things have happened, but just besides spatulas flying out of the pan, or a phone book flying across the room, or something just heavy like that. You can hear somebody walking and coughing upstairs. There used to be a doctor that practiced a chiropractor business out of the house, and in his bedroom, I will not stay in that room. I don't put anything in there. I decided that I was gonna put some clothes, use that closet because I need the extra space, and I fixed it all up, folded everything and put it in. The next morning, it was just all in the two doors closed. It was all messed up, and you can lock his door. Every door in that house has a deadbolt on it. It was made like that. It has a skeleton key in it. That's original to the 1900s that they did that. But you can turn and lock his door, and before you can turn all the way around, it will unlock and open. He doesn't like the door closed. I've been sitting in the tub, and the door handle will move on the door, and it will open. I get up. Well, I went through that about 5 times, and finally I got tired of it, and I screamed at him, and I told him to stop, and it stopped. And then I could hear him walking in my bedroom at night. I'd just say, nope, get out. I don't like to speak to the dead. I don't want to think I'm speaking to the dead. But I would say that, and he would back off. Well, it just escalated. I would come home, and how do 3 cats get locked in a closet that has a deadbolt on it, and then the bedroom only has a very small space underneath? Basically, I'd come home and something would go through 2 doors and lock my cats in the closet. That happened twice. Behind 2 doors, a closet door that was shut and a door that was locked. Well, so there was this guy in my neighborhood, and I knew his mother, and I spoke with her because I like history, and I like to speak to people before they die, because they do know a lot of things about the area. And apparently her giant of a son came home from prison, and he was a known meth addict. I didn't know that at the time, but just a very salty character, I guess you'd say. And this was just a few years back. Well, I had this 9-foot arm. Well, it's a wardrobe, actually. Excuse me. Let me take a sip of coffee.
No, you're fine.
He came over because I was selling some stuff. I want to do floristry work, but that's neither here nor there. But I always have stuff that I sell. And we were sitting in the dining room and at the table, and we're going on everything that he was purchasing. And he pointed at that wardrobe, and he said, "Is that for sale?" And I'm like, yeah, I can sell it, And all of a sudden, so this thing is like 8-9 feet tall. All of a sudden, the door flies open very violently, and this door starts rocking on the hinges sideways until it broke off, flew 6 feet across the room, hit the wall, and landed on the floor in front of us. And here's this big guy, just got out of prison, got this bad reputation. He's not afraid of anybody or anything. He said, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm not buying that. And he said, as a matter of fact, I'm never coming back here again. And then this guy came over one morning, just lived down the street with his family, and we were standing there talking, and I had some Christmas ornaments on a platter, like little wooden rocking horses, and there were about 10 of them there on top of my piano in the side parlor, because there's 3 parlors in the house. And I was showing him some of the Christmas stuff, and all of a sudden he looked out the window, and when he did, something just started pelting him in the back with all the ornaments that were on top of the on top of the piano. And he turned around and he said, what's going on? He started screaming and left, and he never came back. Nobody will come in there. The boy that grew up in the house, he's the one who wants to move back in the house. So I don't have to explain anything to him, but people say they see lights come on, and hear people screaming and stuff. I have never been really afraid in there. It's a nuisance having to put up with that kind of thing, but it took me about 7 years to get it. This is from 2010. Took me about 7 years to going through the house and praying and saying, if anybody, of light and love, Jesus, all that. But there's no doubt in my mind that that house it's haunted, and it's very draining when you live in a haunted house like that, because you constantly feel like it's just draining you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I mean,
it
I
is
remember
stressful.
it's like weird things. I a couple of times I've come home, and every key that I put in any locks that I have will just spin round and round and round, and they will not open the door. I've literally had to get someone to come over and take my windows out so I can get in my house, and take doors down so I can get in my house. Well, what's wrong? I said, well, I don't know what's wrong. None of my keys are working in any of the locks. They will not open the door. They just go round and round, and then it stops after a while, but that's happened twice.
Yeah, that is creepy. Okay, going back to the cornfield, your last memory was walking with your uncle, brother, and sister, and you,
Oh, back on my grandpa's farm, my papa's farm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and you ended up in a different area. How far away were you from that cornfield after you came
It wasn't
to?
a cornfield, it was just the woods.
Okay, I
It was
remember you saying you were breaking
it was
corn
like
cobs to mark the trail.
well, we had corn, there were cornfields, so we just took corn to we weren't in a cornfield, we just took corn with us to put down along the way.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. What I don't know what happened to me. Nobody will talk, no one ever said a word about it. But I just kept, your mother you trust at that age, to believe. And I just kept saying the bear was standing up. And other people heard me say it too, and nobody would talk about it. It was just woods. But there were leaves. I had a coat on. It was still cold. So I'm thinking that it was probably, like early spring. But that's neither here nor there. But
Yeah. Well, it sounds very familiar, and David Paulides talks about the missing 411, and people are walking on trails, and they look away for 1 second, and somebody goes missing, and they can never find them again, or they end up miles away
well,
from the last known location.
we know that I think a lot of people do believe that, there are certain things out there that will eat people. Um, and then we all know, there's something going on in the sky, and whether there is a connection, that's something I certainly don't know, but I know something is going on. I just don't try. I don't really think about. I like listening about these things because I just wish that people. I don't want anything or anybody to get hurt. You know how it says in the Bible, one person will be taken and one will be left behind. How do we know that people disappearing aren't something like that isn't going on?
Yeah, very well could be. That's a good point.
I've listened to a lot of those missing cases too, and it's just
Hmm.
I don't know. It's really sad. I don't understand it. It was never cleared up, and people, these kind of things, people don't forget. Even things that happen, it was it never bothered me. I don't. I'm not a gorilla monkey person. Um, I have physically been around chimpanzees, even small babies. Um, they're extremely strong. Even a tiny baby is stronger than I am. Um, I don't know. It just doesn't seem possible that, for one, they would be idiotic enough to not even hold my hand and I guess that back then things were different, just, oh, she's in the back line, the one on the end. I don't know. Who knows? I've often thought, what if I went under hypnosis? But I don't know.
Yeah, you might be
It's really
afraid
not much.
what you find
It's
out.
really not much of a story compared to a lot of the other stories, that I've heard, you know.
Well, it's worth sharing. And do you have anything else that you'd like to share? Any other experiences or encounters? Anything you can think
It's
of?
I'm starting to remember more things that have happened in my past. I don't know right now. That's all that's I can think of.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good to me. And Anoushka, I really appreciate you for talking to me today and your willingness to share your experiences. And I know it wasn't easy, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for calling, and any time. And I'm going to continue watching your videos, and I wish you the best of luck. And if you ever get up that way, up this way, I'm really close. I need to take out a map because I'm hearing you speak of, oh, this area and the Merrimack River and all that. I know it's south of me, but I really need to have a better look.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
a lot of woods. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there is.
anytime you want to come up here and camp out or whatever, that's totally fine. It just
Okay. Yeah, if I'm ever up that way, I'll send you a message and see if you're available, and perhaps we can meet up.
okay.
All right. Well, I'll let you go. And yeah, thank you very much for talking to me today. And it was a
Okay, I
pleasure
hope this
speaking with
helps.
you. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, you have an excellent day, and we will talk later, my friend.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right, Anoushka, thank you once again for sharing your experiences and encounters with me here on the channel. I did find it rather interesting that you were hiking a trail in Tennessee and you ended up somewhere else. I do hear these reports every now and then, and I do find them to be rather interesting because a lot of times they're associated with Bigfoot, orbs, and people talk about teleporting to other areas that they were not at before, and it's hard to say what's really going on, but possibly it does have something to do with underground activity, mounds, and the Nephilim in general. A lot of what we talk about here on the channel is just a theory, but there is a science behind time and space, and it truly is a mystery. So we can't possibly think that we know everything about the universe and just assume that people are lying, because these reports are shared by many different people around the world. And I mean, even the people that experience this activity don't know what's going on, and they're seeking answers themselves. So I don't think people would, I mean, not everyone, but I don't think people would go on a channel and talk about this type of stuff knowing that they're going to be ridiculed. I think they really experienced something, and they're just trying to find answers like anyone else, like anybody watching these shows that are trying to understand Bigfoot in general or just paranormal activity. I think we're all in the same boat. We're all diving down the same rabbit hole, and yeah, it's a mystery, guys. But anyways, that's all we have for today. I appreciate everyone for listening. Thank you, and be safe.